with the last installment of Who is My Favorite Witch, that being Pandora, and only one more left as the making of this video, I believe it is time to have a discussion on all the Witches of Sin. There will be two videos on this topic, this one being the spoiler free and the next one being spoiler filled. However, there is one thing included in this, and that can be considered a spoiler. If you don't wish to hear it, then skip past the tell us portion, but however, the spoiler is the portion of the story that the anime decided to cut out. Anyway, I made this video long ago in the past, but I privated it simply because I was unhappy with the quality of it. I guess fast forward, however, many months later, I'm back with better quality of our Witches of Sin: Echidna, Satella, Minerva, Pandora, Sekhmet, Daphne, Typhon, Carmilla, and Hector. Before talking about the witches themselves, let's discuss the structure of the sins. Generally, when media presents the theme of the 7 deadly sins, they only include, well, the 7. It is quite rare, I would say, for the media to include the original 9 deadly sins. To add a bit of background to the sins, 7 deadly sins is a set of behavior or habits in Roman Catholic theology. Currently, there are 7 sins, that being pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. However, the original formation consisted of 2 extra sins, vainglory and melancholy. In the 6th century, Pope Gregory I decided that vainglory would be combined with pride and melancholy be combined with sloth. He found them to be too similar to one another to be separated, thus giving us our 7 deadly sins. Finally, with the history lesson out of the way, let's talk about the actual sins themselves. Before that, however, since I don't know who to go first, how about we let chance decide? Spin the wheel and whoever it lands on goes first. Let's see. Well, it looked like it's melancholy, so here we go. The Witches of Sin are typically made up of women, hence they are deemed witches. However, Hector is the devil of melancholy. Hector is a gloomy and depressed guy. He emits a negative aura along with a speech pattern expressing his negative words. There is not much known about Hector. The only display we have of his character is during Volume 4 during the flashback of the sanctuary 400 years ago. Here he attacked a young Roswell, Echidna, and Riezu. Through this fight, we was able to get what has yet to be confirmed as a display of the authority of melancholy. This scene is described as an invisible force consistently pushing and pressuring down on the body of a young Roswell and Riezu. He is also able to create force fields outside of his reach by looking at a place or pointing his open palms towards it, as seen when he destroyed a hut in which Riezu was hiding in. It is unknown as to why Hector pursued Echidna. A lot of events that happened at the sanctuary due to Hector's involvement is still up in the air as unknown. Lastly, for an unknown reason, Hector's identity along with the existence of the devil of melancholy is unknown to the world, and through their interactions with the sanctuary, it seems that Echidna has helped in the concealing of this existence. Eliminating the devil of melancholy, let's see who's up next. Look at what we have here. Sekhmet. The Witch of Sloth, Sekhmet, falling in line directly with her sin. Sekhmet is the epitome of laziness. She is always seen in a lackadaisical position, often trying her best to use the least amount of energy as possible, even when she speaks. She typically ends every sentence with either a sigh or a phew. As for who Sekhmet is in terms of her history within the story, over 400 years ago, Sekhmet drove the dragon Volcanica past the Great Waterfall just so she can have some peace. The death of Sekhmet resulted from this fight beyond the Great Waterfall, causing her to fall to her death. Having had her soul gathered, she now resides in a tomb in the dream citadel of Echidna. After the failed trial, Subaru was able to meet all of the witches, giving the introduction of Sekhmet. During the Witches' Tea Party, Subaru attempted to kill himself. One half of the duo who was willing to let that action go past, Sekhmet refused for anyone to take part in the interruption of Subaru's suicide. Because of this, a battle between Sekhmet and Minerva broke out, in which Sekhmet used the authority of Sloth to squash Minerva. The authority of Sloth is simply an advanced version of the unseen hands that allows for her to use and manipulate an invisible force without moving. It is also stated that out of the 7 witches, Sekhmet is the strongest. With 2 witches out of the way, let's see who number 3 is. Number 3 is Minerva, the Witch of Wrath. Minerva, the walking contradiction of one's sin. Because of this, starting off with her powers. Considering she is the sin of wrath, the authority of wrath works against said definition of wrath. The authority of wrath allows her to drain mana directly from the soul of the world, allowing her to be able to heal anyone or anything. However, even though she can heal physical wounds, she cannot heal wounds that are psychological. During Subaru's mental breakdown in the Witch's Tea Party, Minerva stated that she cannot heal his mind simply because she cannot see the problem. However, when Subaru bit his tongue, she quickly lunged into action because that was a physical wound that she could see. This ability has the side effect of taking mana from random places in the world, causing natural disasters to occur, effectively making it so she killed more people than she actually saved. Since she has this healing factor to her powers, it relates directly to her personality. Minerva hates conflict. She prefers everything to be a perfect peace. So whenever someone becomes injured, she grows with anger and forcing herself to punch everything in order to heal it. But she also carries quite a heroic personality and is sometimes harsh with the delivery of her sentences. Number 3 done. Let's see who number 4 is. And we have Echidna. The witch of greed, Echidna, the most mischievous of the 7 witches, the incarnate of greed itself. Anything and everything that she does is to quench her own thirst of knowledge. Through her conniving tactics and tricky language throughout the time of Arc 4, Echidna attempted to swing Subaru over to her side in order to feed her own craving of greed. She wanted to see the world through his eyes. Looking at what we know of Echidna so far, dating back over 400 years ago, in a quest for immortality, she created the location that became home of many demi-humans called the Sanctuary. Here at the Sanctuary, she would attempt at the process of immortality. Using Ryuzu, she would make multiple copies and instill her memory fragments in each and every Ryuzu clone. While simultaneously creating the Sanctuary, she also trained the first of his name, Roswell Mathers. At some point in time during the creation of the Sanctuary, they fell under attack by the devil and melancholy Hector. Echidna fought Hector to a standstill, and the rest of the story is unknown. Fast forward to the current timeline, Echidna resides in her tomb at the Sanctuary in a non-physical form, only gaining physical form through the essence of the minds of others who enter her tomb. Residing in this tomb, she waits for someone to enter and complete her 3 trials. These trials regurgitating back to the abundance of greed Echidna has. They are a way to look into someone's life to quench her thirst of knowledge of people. Once the trials have been passed, the barrier that holds the Sanctuary and its people hostage will be released. Through her interaction with Subaru, this allows for us to learn about the Book of Wisdom. The Book of Wisdom is the original or true form of the gospel that the witch cultists carry. Their gospel is only a knockoff of the Book of Wisdom. The Book of Wisdom is a book that has all the data of the history recorded inside. The book allows for Echidna to draw knowledge from the world's memories. The mind of an ordinary person attempting to read it would be fried by the sheer amount of knowledge flowing into the reader's mind. There exist 2 forms of the gospel in complete form, deriving from the Book of Wisdom. One is in possession of Roswell and the other is in the possession of Beatrice. As for the authority of greed, it is unknown. However, it is hinted at that the Book of Wisdom is somehow related to it. On to number 5, let's see. Alright, we got Carmilla. The Witch of Lust, Carmilla. Carmilla is the most timid of the witches. She has a very shy and docile personality, even to the point where she has a constant stutter because of her nervousness. She has a really low self-esteem with often downcasted eyes. She speaks in a very polite manner, trying not to cause any disagreements or disapproval. 400 years plus years ago, Carmilla burned to death. Because of this tragedy, this allowed for Echidna to collect her soul, allowing her to manifest at the Castle of Dreams. Carmilla played a major role in the psychological development of Subaru, using her authority of lust, Faceless Bride, which allows for her to captivate people all the way to the point where they forget about their surroundings. She can make people forget how to breathe or even forget the physical pain that they might be in. Also, another aspect of her power is she is able to change her perception in the eyes of others. We see this after Subaru failed the 2nd trial. Carmilla appeared in the form of Rem because that is who he wanted to see. However, she did not physically turn into Rem. His brain now registered Carmilla as Rem. Because of Faceless Bride, she was able to save Subaru from the psychological death of the 2nd trial. Then, at the Witch's Tea Party, she was able to use her power to teach him the meaning and help him understand the feeling of love. Next up, number 6. Best girl, Pandora. The Witch of Vanity, Pandora. She's said to be the absolute of beauty. If it was possible to kill through the essence of beauty alone, she would be the only one to do it. She is beautiful enough to be said to make others tremble with her beauty, and that even God would hesitate to touch her. Pandora walks around with a very calm demeanor. The first time we are introduced to Pandora was during the first trial of Amelia. Pandora has stormed, or better say calmly walked, into the Forest of Elves, Ella Forest, in search of the hidden seal. She brought along monstrosities in order to help with that goal, that being the Witch's Cult, the Black Serpent, and the Sin Archbishop of Greed, Regulus Corneus. It's quite ironic that she brought some backup, considering how she could have done all of it on her own. Considering the powers of Pandora, it should have been an easy task. Looking at the powers of the Witch of Vanity, using the authority of Vanity, she is able to rewrite certain phenomena in her favor. During her assault on Ella Forest, she was killed many times only to rewrite her own death. She rewrote the damage of Regulus and even wrote the actions of Betelgeuse in order to kill Fortuna. Getting closer to the end, let's see who's next. That is Daphne. The Witch of Gluttony, Daphne the insufferable hunger. Much like the Witch of Sloth, she is a direct representation of her sin. Daphne lives and only cares for hunger. This insufferable hunger that she so quests to quench is an empty void. Having an empty void as a stomach is quite dangerous, hence the reason for the mechanism that Daphne uses as mobility. Daphne is tied up to a machine that is quite resemblant of the torture machine, the Iron Maiden. This mechanism that she uses to move around is called the centipede coffin. On Daphne's command, it is able to open and spout 8 legs, moving through the sweat, pee, and waste of its user. The reason for Daphne's imprisonment in this coffin is simply because of her gluttonous personality. Without these restraints, she would be able to eat anyone and anything. It is even said that she eats her food, then regurgitates, and then eats the vomit, the ideal gluttony. To solve this insufferable hunger, Daphne created the demon beast. Even once creating those monstrosities that terrorize the world, she was still hungry. As for the power of Daphne, the authority of gluttony, she does not technically, or should I say, it has never actually been shown officially. However, in the original version of the story, the web novel, she can use the authority of gluttony to make people feel extreme hunger by touching or looking at them. When she glanced at Subaru, she was able to make him experience pure hunger to the point where he began to eat his own arm and lick his own blood. However, this display of her power was not put in the official release of the light novel translations. Second to last, let's see who we have. That being, looks like it is Satella, the Witch of Envy. Satella, the main foe of ReZero. Satella, or should I say the Witch of Envy, is responsible for the great calamity that happened 400 years ago in which the world was almost destroyed. Satella is often known to have a resemblance to Amelia, which in turn causes a lot of grief for Amelia. But as I stated earlier that the Witch of Envy caused the great calamity, I literally meant the Witch of Envy. Satella and the Witch of Envy are two different entities. They are two separate personalities. Satella, when she accepted the witch factor, she was denied because of the incompatibility with the envy witch factor, creating the Witch of Envy personality. As for both her personalities, they both love Subaru. However, the Witch of Envy is far more aggressive with the showing of their love. Lastly, as for the powers, we don't know what the powers of Satella are, but we often see Satella using the shadows very similar to the unseen hands. Also, we know that she possesses some power that allows for her to manipulate time, considering she gave Subaru the ability of return by death. Last but not least, we have Typhon, the Witch of Pride. Typhon being the youngest of the witches, she acts in the same way of a child, often using nicknames like Tella, Daffy, or Milla in reference to the witches. She is very ignorant, impulsive, and happy-go-lucky. About 400 years ago, Typhon went to Priscilla, where she drowned in the city's trap. And then Echidna later proceeded to collect and preserve her soul in her tomb in the sanctuary, alongside the other witches of sin. As for the power of Typhon, the authority of pride, this authority allows for her to break apart her enemy's body if the target feels guilty of something, implying that she takes the body as part of a compensation for their sin. Alright, that is every Witch of Sin. I hope you all have enjoyed. Tell me your favorite witch down in the comment section. Pandora, best witch of course. But thank you all for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Follow my Twitter along with joining the Discord to chat ReZero. Links are all in the description. And goodbye.